Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, and today I have a new guest. Her name is Elizabeth Harding Weinstein, and we have a story that you can't make this stuff up. But she's a 49-year-old mother, a graduate of Columbia University, a previous ER and ICU nurse, the survivor of severe domestic violence and narcissistic abuse, and a previous well-known and respected resident of Briarcliff Manor, New York. Her husband, Brian Stryker Weinstein, is a high-profile Davis Polk attorney with connections in the judiciary and a lifelong history with pedophilia. When Elizabeth confirmed her husband's existing practice and confronted her husband, telling him that if he wanted it to stop and agreed not to hurt them anymore, they would help him. Her husband initially agreed, and then he ran. He immediately hired a company, O'Connor Professional Group, to falsify medical documentation and have Elizabeth falsely committed to a psych hospital. To give him a cover for his pedophilia, Elizabeth reports. When that failed, Brian used bogus orders of protection and the criminal coercion of the police to kidnap his children, evict Elizabeth from the house and from her children's lives. The judicial system and law enforcement were weaponized against her as well. Suddenly, the mother, with no prior history with the courts or police for 48 years, was kidnapped, lost contact with her children, and has been made homeless, has been falsely arrested multiple times, taken into custody, and placed in solitary confinement for refusing to wear a mask while she was in the process of filing court documents and a FOIA form, showing the corruption of the very judges that now have weaponized the system against her. She was sent to solitary confinement without due process and without being able to call a lawyer or family. She filed a federal lawsuit for the false arrests and imprisonments, was then kidnapped again by the same police who were defendants in her case, brought in front of the same judge who sent her back to jail, then involuntarily committed her, against her will, to one of the very same hospitals her husband contracted with to have her falsely committed to 10 months earlier, all while video evidence shows her undeniably calm and competent and no threat to herself or others. And I'm welcoming you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, you didn't even get to the last paragraph, which is the real crazy part.
Oh,
about-
okay. Here we go. Okay. All right. So you have been a previous ER ICU nurse with insight into your care, knew your patient care rights and exercised them, refusing all treatment and demanding a hearing to be released within 5 days. And at St. Vincent Hospital, and the courts denied Elizabeth a hearing for 2 weeks in full violation of mental health and hygiene laws, then ordered her to take what she calls a lethal cocktail of prescription medication by another related judge, Anne E. Minihan. Doctors and nurses threatened to make Elizabeth incapacitated before they would ever release her. Once released, judges issued ex parte, ex post facto orders backdated 4 months against Elizabeth, who was unlawfully arrested on the unserved orders for alleged violations, such as posting a picture of her children. That occurred weeks earlier when no orders were in place. Police refused to tell Elizabeth why they pulled her over if she was arrested, and then why she was being arrested. Elizabeth filed another federal lawsuit. Her husband and defendants in her case then filed for guardianship over Elizabeth, petitioning the court to see all of her assets, assign her a lawyer in all cases where they were defendants, and have Elizabeth placed in long-term care facility and forced medications. Judge Janet C. Malone held ex parte hearings and trafficked Elizabeth into this guardianship of property. This illegal guardian, Kenneth L. Bunting, now not only keeps Elizabeth monthly support payments, he found Elizabeth's private account with her only money used to feed herself, confiscated the money, and closed the account, leaving her destitute and dependent upon the kindness of friends for food and shelter.
Yep.
Bunting cut off Elizabeth's car insurance, refused to provide money for transportation, and judges deny Elizabeth virtual access to the court when COVID protocols demand virtual access, and then dismiss her divorce filing entirely for failure to participate. Brian's now advancing multiple duplicative divorce petitions he filed when he filed for guardianship over Elizabeth. His legal adversary and domestic violence victim. This is not a horror movie, and no one can make this up. This is incredibly serious. It's happening in Elizabeth's life, and I totally welcome you to the show. You there?
There, now it came back on.
Okay, I can edit that.
Great.
So welcome to Slam the Gavel, and I'm very
Thank
sorry
you.
this is happening to you. How have you been doing?
Thank you for asking. It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. I mean, the one thing that I have to deal with every day is the knowing that somebody that's doing this to me, these complete sociopathic, I mean, this is like Silence of the Lambs type of control over another human, what my husband, Brian Stryker Weinstein, is doing. And knowing that my children are locked in the home with him, and that there's the Stockholm syndrome, and there's the, all of the dangers. If he's doing this to me, well, is he going to do this to them if he thinks that they're going to speak out? Like, it's terrifying. It's really terrifying. And, it's also commonplace for people to have people like this walking around and not truly know the dangers of these people. I mean, Brian Stryker Weinstein is on the board at Duke University Kenan Institute for Ethics, on Duke's ethics board, while he's committing these horrific criminal acts, using the police to maliciously, and meritlessly have people arrested, have people put, like, just at his whim. Like, they're just, he snaps and they do what he wants. And it clearly, like, even on black letter law, even on like ex post facto laws and orders are highly illegal and unconstitutional. You can't give me an order on April 16th and say, oh, by the way, we've decided it's going to be backdated through September, and now we're arresting you for today for posting a picture of your kids 2 weeks ago. Like, so we're at that level of lawlessness in our country. We are living in Nazi Germany easily, not communist Russia, and we are sitting here thinking that we're safe, and we're not. And so the idea is we can't protect ourselves against dangers that we don't see. So I want my story to go far and wide so that people can hear what's going on and start doing things to protect themselves.
And definitely, this also reminds me of the Victorian era when a man wanted to get rid of his wife, he just had her committed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is just absolutely despicable.
Handmaid's Tale. It's Handmaid's Tale. And what we need to understand is that they could not do this without the complicity of the judiciary. Right? The judiciary is supposed to be the stopgap measure, and instead they are the very mechanism by which we are tortured. Right? So he couldn't just do this on his own. Like, normally, if he just like locked all the doors, threw me out of the house, and said, "You can't come in here anymore," right? Like, there would be consequences. But all the roads of justice lead to the courts. And if it's the courts that are the very ones committing these horrific crimes against us, then where's our recourse?
It seems like there is no recourse. There's no accountability anywhere.
Well, I feel that the work, if nothing else, this case shows, it clearly discredits our judiciary. It clearly discredits our courts as being based in a foundation of law. And instead, it's a mechanism for coercion, extortion, and trafficking, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. The judges are made up of people,
Mm-hmm.
and we're the ones that pay those people. They're our employees. So we're paying our employees to commit crimes against us.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to stand up and not do that anymore. We need to call this out. We need to demand that we stop paying our taxes if our taxes are going to commit crimes. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's a crime to finance a crime. Okay? Under RICO laws, if you finance a crime, you are found guilty. That you can't do that. So why is the government able to perpetuate crimes, and then the government's like, oh, pay me taxes so that I can commit these crimes?
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. And it's also, the government can't mandate that you commit a crime. So
Mm-hmm.
that argument has real teeth for completely separating ourselves from at least financing these awful, horrific crimes that are happening through our courts. And I'm talking about, easily murder in the guardianship part.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to Google much or do any real deep dive into research to see the amount of people who are murdered every year from abuse and neglect and over medication by their guardians in this predatory system. Okay, so we're talking about the judges, perpetuating murder in plain view. We're talking about kidnapping. We're talking about extortion, coercion. I mean, it's happening right in front of our face. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
looking for these, tunnels of kids that are trafficked underneath the ground. And the truth of the matter is, you don't have to look there. It's happening in plain view.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, my story is a story of retaliation and sheer and utter unchecked despotic power from the courts. I mean, you don't have to talk to me for more than a few minutes to know that I'm competent and capable,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And articulate, intelligent person. My competency is self-evident. So everybody should be extraordinarily alarmed by the
Mm-hmm.
fact that a person such as myself, who's very vocal, who's educated, I'm an Ivy League educated person, I have teenage children. If this could happen to me, who can it happen to?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right,
Who
definitely,
can?
because if it can happen to you, it can happen to anyone.
Right. Exactly. And it first starts when we can start to change the problem, when we acknowledge what the problem is. And it's that we have judicial immunity in this country. And so judges act above the law. And when anybody acts above the law, you live under tyranny. I mean, you don't need Lizzie Harding Weinstein, to go in front of a judge to tell him that these mask mandates are unconstitutional. That man studied constitutional law at Harvard. Like, he knows that they're unconstitutional. The judges are allowing it because the judges want to allow it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in a hostage takeover of our humanity. And what's happening is that they want all of this humanistic control to happen with people's compliance and without having to file gunshots.
Mm-hmm.
They just want you to comply with your own abuse. They want you to comply with your own enslavement.
Yeah, this is terrible. I've done other shows on guardianships, and it's just I don't even know why this is happening. It's just so out of control.
Yeah. Well, the cure is worse than the disease with guardianships. I really believe that we need to just abolish the system, because I would say for everybody, every one person that's helped, you can find, 10 times those stories of it being predatory and somebody just completely stripping your assets.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, it's just so obvious. Like I filed for divorce from him on June 6th, citing cruel and inhumane treatment when he first used the courts, and he sent the police to our home,
Mm.
and he paced at the top of the driveway. He wouldn't come in. We begged him to come in and talk to us. He wouldn't do it.
Mm.
Why? Because he uses the police and the courts as his weapon.
Mm.
He didn't want to confront reality. He didn't want to have a resolution. What he wanted was to kidnap the children, to be able to manipulate and brainwash them, and to have me evicted. And so one of the most important parts of my story that I want everybody to know is that the police came to my house with this order of protection, quote unquote, order of protection that he got ex parte. The only introduction for the order of protection was it said that I wrote him too many emails, right? Which is stupid. That doesn't even meet the Article 8 evidence. I wrote him too many text or emails, and it caused him, he wrote in his petition, to be nervous, anxious, distracted, and fearful. And I can pull it out here just so that you can, oh no, you guys don't see it. This is not on camera, so it doesn't matter. But it caused him to be nervous, anxious, distracted, and fearful. That's not harassment. That doesn't qualify, right? But yet that's what happened. They gave him a full vacate and stay away order. And then the police, after they had been to my house for 2 hours and assessed that the children were totally fine and wanted to stay with me, the police then said that they told my children that if they didn't go with their father, that they were going to arrest me for kidnapping.
Oh,
It's
no.
horrific.
How horrible.
And yeah, because my children were 17, 16, and 13. And if they got in the car of their own free will and left with me, that couldn't happen. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So this was just all the police totally lying. And they also came down my driveway like this. I have a circular driveway and blocked me in. Right? So, I mean, like, it was all staged. You look back on it now and you can see it. But, you know, hindsight's 2020. When it happened, you're still locked into your mindset of police are good. They're here to help me. They're just doing their job. Don't make a mess for the police because then they're going to be upset with you. You know, like all of this indoctrinated beliefs and confirmation biases that we walk around with and we believe, you know, serves us well. And instead, you take a step back and you realize, well, I don't really have any interaction with the police and I don't have any interaction with the courts. Like, where do I get my information from? Well, you get it from Hollywood. And what does Hollywood tell you? Hollywood tells you that, like, gosh darn it, you just go in and you tell the judge the truth and he slams the gavel and justice is served, right? But that's not what happens. That's not what happens at all. Instead, the judges are committing horrific, atrocious crimes in plain view. Abusing our trust, using our trust in order to get us to comply with the abuse. So we need to start awakening to the problem and we need to start dismantling it in any way that we can. I mean, I think the easiest way to fix the problem is to confront the judges and have them choose to be better people, right? Like there's nothing more redeeming than self-regulation, right? If these monsters suddenly decided not to be monsters, they just didn't want to be that way anymore, then that would solve the problem, right? So you can't ever give up hope on somebody. You can't ever give up hope that they would do the right thing. Right? But you can't be naive and blind to it. So you have to ask the person, always go back to the person, give them a chance to be human, give them a chance to do the right thing, give them a chance to turn to their soul, but put contingencies in place to protect yourself. And one of the first things that I would tell people now is no matter what, don't leave your children. No, I wish I would have let them arrest me. You know, and maybe that would have like escalated this in a different way and people would have been confronted with their reality and their humanity in a way sooner, or, you know, but instead I complied because I trusted them. And that was the last time that I've been able to see my kids directly. That was June 5th of 2020.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, worse has been every time that I kept fighting back, you know, I fought back and then the police would just falsely arrest me. They would show up at a place that I had been every single day for the past like 8 weeks. And they'd say, oh, get out of the car, we're arresting you. And I'd say, for what? Oh, you're in violation. And I was like, I'm not in violation. Here's the video. I have a video of being in the exact same location 2 weeks ago. And you're telling me this is not in violation. They're like, we changed our mind. Get out of the car. And they would arrest me. Then they, and that came a day after I filed assault charges against the police. Then they started falsely arresting me. Then I went to file a motion for the false arrest. Then they arrested me and put me in solitary confinement. And that was horrific. That was, they wouldn't let me out of the cell because I couldn't medically tolerate a mask. So they wouldn't feed me because I was vegetarian. They wouldn't give me regular meals. I mean, they would only give me these big meals with meat. They kept the lights on the whole time. They said that I was on super, right? So they keep the lights on. They take all of your belongings. They don't give you a book, a piece of paper, or a pencil because they say, oh, no, sorry, you're on suicide watch. You can't have a book. And I'm like, this isn't because you think I'm going to commit suicide. This is because you're trying to make me go crazy. I mean, you're locking me in a hole, taking me from everything that I love, not letting me call family or friends, you know, and then, I mean, or a lawyer. It was horrific. I eventually was able to get in touch with a lawyer and eventually get out of there. But even that, they then shackled me, right? I got released. They locked me back in my cell for like 6 hours. Then they shackled my feet, shackled my waist, shackled my hands, and transferred me to the psychiatric hospital. And now I went to Columbia and for my nurse practitioner, although I didn't finish my degree, I do have a second bachelor's degree from Columbia for my nursing. And I understood, I did my training in ER, nurse practitioner at Bellevue Hospital. So I understood what they're looking for. So I went in there and I said, listen, I've got insight to my care. I'm of sound mind and body. I'm fully competent. These officers are doing this in retaliation for falsely imprisoning me. And they're trying to lay plausible deniability to give them a claim for what just happened in that jail. And I was released, but it didn't stop there. I then filed a federal lawsuit against them, against the town and the judges. And then the next day, the judges had me kidnapped by the same defendant officers. They chained me to a wall for hours. They said they had a warrant for my arrest, but never produced a warrant. They then dragged me in front of the judge. 2 people dragged me in front of a judge who was ready and waiting on a Tuesday. When we don't have court on Tuesdays in Briarcliff. We have court on. So all of a sudden, you know, there it is, ready and waiting. There's the DA, there's the David Lauscher, there's the court clerk, Roy Zerman, and the judge, Howard T. Coate, all of them defendants in my cases. And he said, oh, Mrs. Weinstein, I determined you're not competent enough to stand trial. And I was like, Judge, that's ridiculous. Of course I am. All I need to know is my person, place, and time. Here it is. I need to know the charges that were against me. You arrested me for no mask, but I was charged with disorderly conduct and obstruction of government administration too, neither of which I did. And they were meritless and bogus arrests. And it comes with a year jail time for obstruction of government too, which is why you added that in. And I said, so that's a standard by which you have to be competent to stand trial. So I refute that. And he's like, well, too bad. I'm declaring you incompetent. And now I'm sending you back. I'm dropping all your charges. I didn't want him to drop my charges because I was suing him for malicious prosecution. So I wanted adjudication of the charges in my favor. You understand? But he said, I'm dropping all the charges against you. And now I'm sending you back to prison. Sent me back to jail with no criminal charges. They strip search me, bend over, spread your cheeks, take out your tampon. Disgusting. Dehumanizing. And that's the point of it, right? That's what they do. They want to dehumanize you so that they can more easily abuse you. And if we don't understand that that is a standard trait of humans, that all you have to do is put somebody in another room, and then most people, if ordered to, will shock that person even to the point that they think that they've had a heart attack, right? That's a Stanley Milgram experiment when he was trying to figure out how Nazi Germany happened. You want to know how Nazi Germany happened? You're watching it happen. It's when innocent people, when good people stand by and do nothing, when evil propagates. So right now I'm praying for humanity. I was put into that, back to jail. Then they transferred me to a psychiatric facility, admitted me by judicial order, wouldn't give me a copy of the order. Same thing I have every single day. I'm writing letters saying I'm of sound mind and body, I'm fully competent, I'm of no threat to myself or others. Doesn't matter. They said, you're in here because you said that your husband's a pedophile and you're filing court documents. I mean, they were blatant about it.
Mm.
They were blatant about it. It was just, it's sick. And so there's a whole underground layer, and it's not even underground, actually. It's an above ground, in your face layer that you're missing in our society, in America today, of people who will kidnap you and have you falsely committed, because that's the real human trafficking. They can build the insurance company, they can build Medicaid, they can build Medicare, right? The more drugs they give you, the more reimbursement they get. No downside to them. So if they don't think that somebody's helping you or watching over you, you're more, as soon as they can isolate you, you're more easily preyed upon by people.
And,
So,
you know, it's a shame because, you know, you're a nurse, you help people. You're
way
an
back when, I was like 20
Mhm.
years ago. I don't want to misrepresent myself now.
Well, you're still a nurse. You still have that. You studied that and you worked it. So, you know, it's a shame they treated you like this.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah. It gets worse and worse. I mean, this whole guardianship thing is such a farce. Such a
Mhm.
farce. Like they're saying, oh, you've got problems paying your finances. Yeah, because my multimillionaire husband cut off all of my finances.
Mhm.
That's got nothing to do with my capabilities or my competency. It's got to do with outside forces of my husband, a lawyer, a law partner at Davis Polk and Wardwell, using the courts to commit severe and horrific acts of domestic violence.
Mhm.
And that's what our courts are used for. And
Mhm.
now, can you get justice in them? Yeah, I think like all abusers, they don't abuse 100% of the people 100% of the time, because people would revolt. So they've got to, like, do a little love bombing, keep you compliant, so that then they can keep you as their victim. You understand?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, there is no accountability. I personally would like to see family court and CPS abolished,
Mm-hmm.
and these they've got to be held accountable. You can't just do this to people and get away with it, but they're doing it daily.
Yes. Well, I think, like I said, the first step in accountability is acknowledgement of the problem. Because when people know that that's what's really going on, and you get rid of the veil of secrecy and you just call it for what it is, right? You shatter the delusion.
Mhm.
You shatter the delusion that that's actually protective services. It's just like when the Nazis would call the gas chambers showers. Oh, go take a
Mhm.
shower. So then you're going to it expecting help from something that's about to kill you,
Mhm.
right? Same thing. Child protective services, the child trafficking services.
Mhm.
But just by changing that one name, we now are left with such an indoctrinated thought. We have such a strong confirmation bias because we call them something. So then we will constantly keep trying to do the same thing with them because we think they're a resource for good. It's not until we acknowledge what their true purpose is
Mhm.
that we will stop and protect ourselves, right? But if we keep calling them, protective, and we indoctrinate ourselves into it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's you know, you don't know. Everything's like 2020 hindsight. You think, as you said, you think you're going to get justice and everything's going to be fair, but it's just not. It's not in these
right,
courtrooms. Mm-mm.
right, right. So the way to turn is we've got to go back to the people. We've got to start taking responsibility. Like, why in our country the power structure is supposed to be, the greatest power goes to the people,
Mhm.
the second greatest power to the states, then the third greatest power to the federal government, right? Well, if that's the case, why is the Supreme Court a federal court our highest court in the land? that doesn't quite make sense, right? Shouldn't there be a people's court? Shouldn't it be that it is the people who oversee? And isn't it interesting that in the quote unquote highest court of the land, there are no juries? It is not a court of people, right?
Right.
So you got to start thinking about some of this. And I know it seems daunting to think about, but what's our alternative is just to blindly keep going down the same road and watch our entire country become enslaved, which is what is happening right now in our country. This is a hostage takeover of our country. We are literally in the middle of a war, and they are instituting communism, right? They're taking away our civil liberties. They're taking away our medical freedom. They are trying to establish that the state has more power over your children than you do, right? They want to come in and say they don't like the way that you're homeschooling. They'll take away your child. How are we allowing this? How are we just sitting back and thinking that, the problem's just too big? It is a big problem, but how do you eat an elephant? You got to start taking one little bite at a time, right? And we've got to start fixing this. So the first and foremost thing is to acknowledge that this is where it's coming from. The second thing is to turn away from these organizations and build our own, right? If your school is mandated vaccines and masks, and they're doing away with medical freedoms, and they're doing away with the exemptions, and then don't send your children there. Start your own homeschools. Take the children out. Protect your children at all costs. But many organizations want to try and divide us as either, oh, those are the mothers that are just making stuff up, or, oh, those are the fathers and they're all, deadbeat dads, right? Well, that's not really true. We know that that's not really true. So what we have to do is unify. This is not a mother versus father issue. This is an issue of the government trying to take control of our children. And we need to stand up. We need to unify mothers and fathers together. We need to unify, and we need to stand up and fight so that our children will have a chance at a better world, right? Because if we're just like, it's just too big of an issue, well, then all that we're doing is we're mortgaging our children's welfare for a little bit of like denial during our lifetime, right?
Definitely.
And some people do that, but for me, it's just not how I live. I'm a good mother. I'm a protective mother. I cannot just turn a blind eye to these injustices and kick the can down the road and be like, I don't know, you guys deal with it, right? When I see this horrifically happening, I don't want somebody to come in and take my daughter's children away and traffic her into guardianship because she realized that her husband was committing crimes. I don't want somebody to come in and take my son's children away and traffic him into guardianship, right? Just does not, these should not be powers that we bestow. That's what we have to remember. We bestow these powers to them. And when they're showing us clearly that they cannot manage the immense trust and power that we've given them, then we need to take it back.
Now, were you representing yourself, which is called pro se or pro per?
Yeah, so what happened was I originally, when all this first happened, I hired lawyers to try and represent me. Now, remember, my husband's a law partner. So you understand the incentive for helping a law partner is the scales are tipped in his favor. I'm just one person. And, I'm probably worth about $500,000 in legal fees, but they don't care because he can incentivize them more. You understand? Whatever I can incentivize him, he can incentivize him more. So I hired 5 lawyers, divorce lawyers. And in 8 weeks, not one lawyer would get me a court-mandated phone call with my children or serve my husband a copy of the divorce. Not one. Not one. And everybody's like, why? And I say, because they didn't want to, right? That's the answer. Like, you can't speak to somebody else's intentions. All you can say is what the evidence is and what that is consistent with. It's consistent with them wanting to get a different disposition for my husband and not wanting to take it to a higher court to have me go through a divorce. It's consistent with that. right?
Mm.
And then, so I had to fire them, 5 lawyers in 8 weeks. And let me tell you, if I was concerned at all that I made the wrong decision, that maybe they were trying to do the right thing and we just didn't get, each and every one of them kept their full retainer for only a few days worth of work. Okay, so it was over $140,000. And so right there, it goes to show the malfeasance of those people, and that my gut was right. But that's one of the tricks of the system. They say, if you can't work with a lawyer, oh, something must be wrong. And they constantly try to reinstate this idea of anybody who's self-represented as crazy,
Mhm.
because they don't want you to know how they're all in there shaking hands. They
Oh,
don't want you
definitely.
to have the evidence to suggest that when you file in these proper motions and you won't, back down, that they don't have the jurisdiction to commit these crimes, right? But the dangerous tipping point that we're getting to right now is that they don't have the accountability even when they do something obviously criminal.
Mhm.
Right? Like, so it used to be, I don't want to do something too obvious because I'll get found out. Now they kind of don't even care. Right?
Right.
Was that your experience?
That definitely, it's who knows who.
Mm-hmm.
They're all meeting at the club, making decisions about your court case the day before. They already have it. The map is laid out.
Yeah, it's predetermined.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was getting in my divorce case when Nancy Quinn Covert started out with, they would send me notices in October that they were going to have like a consolidation in December. Well, consolidation is a standard and customary behavior of the court. And when I filed in August, that should have been approved within like a couple weeks, right?
Mhm.
Tops. Yeah, of course we're going to consolidate this out of the family court, because the Supreme Court has more jurisdiction over the financial matters, which still need to be adjudicated. So why are we going to keep this in 2 different courts at the same time, simultaneously? That doesn't make sense.
Mm-mm.
That's not what they did. Not only did they delay it, but then they're like, oh, we're not going to tell you until mid-December. So they mapped it out with him already. And I'd say, what? And then you would realize, oh, shoot, we shouldn't have told her that. Now we've just made it clear, right? And I would document everything, and then it would just get more and more and more buried. So it's just been, it's been a roller coaster. It's been absolutely horrific. And at every point, I've kept my hope and humanity. At every point, I've said, not every single person can be this awful. Not every single person can want to commit these horrific crimes. Not everybody can want to be a kidnapper. But the problem is finding that person that'll help you, finding the judge that'll make the right decision,
Mhm.
because constantly, because normally what happens is if you get a good judge that'll make the right decision, they'll recuse them,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
they'll have them dismissed because they want a judge on that'll do what they want them to do, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
in my case, every single thing that he would write letters. He was so brazen. Brian Stryker Weinstein. He would write letters and say, oh, next week she's going to get really bad news at the court. I think, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure she's going to get really bad news. So why don't you have somebody drive her there so that she doesn't have to drive home alone? Because I'm really worried about how she's going to respond.
Ah, what a narcissist.
It's so sick. And if you ever met him, you would think he's the nicest guy that you've ever met, right?
Mhm.
That's what they do. And so this is a real eye-opening moment in our humanity, where people have to recognize these behaviors and say, do we really want this? Even if I get like a little bit of extra power here and a little bit of extra money, does it make my soul feel good?
Mm.
Like, is it helping me? Is it helping my family? Is it going to advance things? Or is it only perpetuating? Is it only putting me in a downward spiral? Is my anxiety increasing, right?
Mhm.
So these are the things that we have to really think about when we're making these decisions to turn a blind eye
Mhm.
to the incredible narcissistic abuse or the domestic violence that we see. But in every thing that has happened to me, like I said, it's so ridiculous because, like you said, 48 years old, no history whatsoever, right? No history with the courts, no history. Now, all of a sudden, I find out my husband's a pedophile. And within a year, he's got like 5 false arrests, right? He's had me put in solitary confinement for not wearing a mask. And I invite people to go look at that, the website on that, because it's so ridiculous, like how clear that is that that's what was happening. And then he, so false arrest, put into solitary confinement, not allowed to have a lawyer, not allowed to call anybody, got out of that. Then they kidnap me. Then they admit me by judicial order to a psych hospital. I refuse all services while I'm there because I was like, no, I know my rights and I don't need your services. So I refuse all medication, refuse all services. Then they have another judge come in and order me medications. And like, it was lithium, Haldol injections, Zyprexa, Depakote, Cogentin, Ativan, Benadryl. I mean, it's like a modern day lobotomy. Modern day lobotomy. And that was Andy Minahan. And I just found out that Ann Minahan is now going to take over as, like, I think chief of the matrimonial part or something of our courts. I mean, this is a woman who is holding bail hearings when misdemeanors don't require bail, right? There should have been no hearing. She should have been like, yeah, okay, go home. Like, why are you even in jail? Like, you're not supposed to be in jail on this.
Right.
Right. But that's not what happened. She held the bail hearing and like slammed her gavel and said, you will participate with psychiatric treatment or I will haul you right back to jail. And I was like, Judge, that's called criminal coercion. And I have a right to refuse medical visits. Like, I know that my husband is trying to seek to get a psychiatric diagnosis of me to give him a cover for his pedophilia. That's all that this is about. And he wants you to ignore the clear evidence that I am competent and capable. He wants you to just deny the truth that you can see. And instead live in the delusion that makes you feel a little safer, right? Because the idea is, you know, who wants to live in a world where this can happen? I'd rather just lie to myself and say there must be something else to that story, right? But the most horrific part of my unique story is that it's not unique. The most horrific part of my unique story is that when I started telling people about my story, the number of people that came out of the woodwork to say, this happened to me too.
Exactly.
I was like, oh my gosh. Is that what you were finding when you were telling your story?
Well, interviewing people, they would come forward and say that this has happened to them.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, this is like the Victorian era.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm asking people to start going out and posting. Listen, this is a war. And I believe that good is stronger than evil. I believe that we're able to control our destiny and that when we stand up to evil, that evil will eventually subside, but we have to stand up to it. So what happens is every 100 years or so, what happens is when evil wants to fight, other evil stands up and they link arms and they all help each other. Why? Because they've got blackmail evidence on each other. And if one of them goes down, then the whole system starts falling, right? So they have to fight and they don't mind fighting. They like fighting. But good people in general don't like to fight. We just want to be good people. We don't want the confrontation. We just want to get on with our lives, be happy people, and try and live a better life and get a better life for our children, right? But every 100 years or so, what happens is that evil proliferates so much that you can't avoid it. You have to stand up and fight. It's like we're playing Red Rover, and they've got the whole place blocked. So you have to go against them. You have to go again. But when you do, when you stand in your strength and you stand in your sovereignty and you know that you are trying to do good for humanity, good will win. Evil does not have the strength of good. It does not have the power of good, right? People gravitate to good. They want to do good, right? That's water flows downstream. People eventually, they want to gravitate towards good. It's harder. It takes more energy to convince them to do bad. But then once they go bad, that's the problem. Once they go evil, then it takes a lot of like coercive energy to get them back into their good. But I believe that every person that has this hostage takeover of themselves and sells their soul to the devil and becomes demonic and becomes evil and perpetuates these horrific crimes, I believe somewhere deep down within them that they still retain a little bit of their pure positive soul.
Mm-hmm.
And if they turn to that piece of their soul, that little tiny speck of their soul is stronger than the biggest demon that lives inside of them. But they have to choose it.
Mm-hmm.
They have to seek the redemption. They have to seek the accountability. And when they do, they will face the shame and the consequences of their actions. But that will be nothing compared to the amount of pain that they faced in perpetuating the evil on themselves and on their families.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's my goal to get people to understand that it's an option.
Mm-hmm.
It's an option to turn to your soul, and it's an option to become a good person. That, like I said in the very beginning, like that's the easiest way to get this to all end, is for the people to say, you know what, actually, I don't want to be evil anymore. I'm going to be a good person. This is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I want a good life, and I want a better life for my family than what I was afforded. Because everybody that goes and perpetuates abuse, they themselves were abused when they were younger. And if you can just break those cycles of generational abuse, step outside of that, and devote our time and our attention to humanity, then we can stop this awful, horrific human trafficking that's occurring in our courts. And it's occurring to me. It's occurring to my children. They were trafficked by the court. I was trafficked by the court into this illegal guardianship with Kenneth L. Bunting. Janet C. Malone was a judge. It's pretty scary that this is America, and we are the most free country in the world. So if it's happening here, what's going on in other countries, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is just so sad, because Britney Spears brought it forward with the, guardianships, because I think a lot of people didn't understand those until her case broke. Now everyone's coming forward being under a guardianship.
Yep. People are coming forward, and but this is how it works, right? They tell us what they're going to do. Our abusers tell us what they're going to do before they do it. And then they use that to get us to be desensitized to the abuse. Okay? So we have two options here. We can become desensitized to this conservatorship stuff and say, oh, gee, I sure hope they let me pick my lawyer. Or we could stand up and say, absolutely not, totally unacceptable. And what do you mean? I don't have to ask you permission for my lawyer. I don't have to, my competency is self-evident. I'm stepping outside of this, and I want accountability for the people who trafficked me, right? That's the warrior mode. That's where we need to step into. And we need to understand that type of society really benefits nobody. Every parasite, if you could completely allow them to flourish, they kill themselves off because they just feed off of each other and they all end up dying, right? Parasitic societies always fail. So why keep trying to do that? Why not actually turn instead towards a society of light, of love, of goodness, right? Of redemption, of accountability? Why not build those? Why not look at them? And I pray for the souls of all the people who are doing this to me. I really do, because I know that they must have suffered in their life in order to perpetuate this evil on me and my children. And I don't know when, I don't know how, but I feel like I just have to keep at this, and eventually goodness will come. It'll eventually work out. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I feel like it's eventually going to work out. And even if it doesn't, then I died doing who I wanted to be, being a person of integrity, fighting for a worthy fight, fighting for a better life for my children. And I wouldn't want it any other way.
Oh, well, I mean, my hat's off to you. It's just so sad what you've been through. I don't know how you're doing it. Yeah, you're pretty amazing to say that there is kindness yet in these people that are sociopaths.
A soul. I said there's still a soul there. I still think that they maintain a tiny speck of their pure positive soul. And I think that they can turn to their soul at any time
Mhm.
and seek redemption and seek accountability, and they can find it in this life.
Mhm.
Right? But if they want to perpetuate the crimes to cover up for what they did, or perpetuate the evil to cover up the crimes that they committed, the crimes of other people that would be exposed, if they could do that. But
Mhm.
it's always, you can't run from your soul. It's always going to chase you. The anxiety, the fear, even the power will
Mhm.
fade. But the anxiety and the fear will always stay with you.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's yeah, I mean, that's at least the mantras that I live by. And
Mhm.
I could be totally wrong. There could be, it could be that these guys don't um have a chance, but I just can't imagine that that's the world that we live in. I really do feel like we're all connected to God source energy,
Mhm.
and that he created us to be good and to create and have fun and share light and love on this earth.
Mhm. Oh, if anyone wants to contact you, do you talk to people? Do people
All
try
the
to
time. All the
Okay.
time. People contact me all the time. If you are of some way could help me end this abusive guardianship, this guardian, Kenneth L. Bunting, like you said, seized all my assets, prevents me from getting access to support money or food, for living, for anything. But then I had one small account left that I used for food, to buy food for myself. And he went and found those assets secretly, drained all the account, and closed it. And now
Mm.
what people need to know about that is that TD Bank found the activity to be suspicious, but didn't even send me a notification. Like normally you would get a fraud alert notification
Mhm.
if there's
Mhm.
suspicious activity. And they said that he submitted his application to get added on as a signer to my account and then to close it. And they didn't even send me notification. And I said, well, that makes no sense. There's no benefit to me to not receive a notification. And they said, oh, well, we were worried you were incompetent. And I was like, well, then you fulfilled your liability, because your
Mhm.
fiduciary responsibility is to me. So by notifying me,
Mhm.
then if I was incompetent, I just wouldn't have responded. But if I was competent, then I could have stopped the transaction. I could have
Mhm.
possibly gotten an injunction on it. I could have, contacted Mr. Bunting himself to try and clear up any quote unquote misunderstandings about it,
Mhm.
right? Like there would have been a million things. I could have submitted a fraud statement to the bank to counter his claim, but that's not what the bank did. So we have to understand these banks are complicit. These
Mhm.
banks, our financial institutions, are complicit. This is literally Nazi Germany. Somebody tells them, take all their money away, take all their possessions away, and leave them with nothing. And happened in a matter of days for me.
Oh, I'm so
So,
sorry.
yeah, so and that he was appointed, unlawfully appointed fraudulently, in August.
Mhm.
It's December. I've never gotten any money from him. He won't give me money for food. He's confiscated all my accounts. He takes positions against me. He goes to court. He asks for cases that have already been adjudicated to be amended, to be adjudicated with prejudice.
Mhm.
It's silly. It's
Mhm.
absolutely silly. So, if anybody has any expert in guardianships, you can reach out to me. My phone number is 646-261-7685. You can call me. You can send me an email, Liz Harding 1, LizHarding, Liz Harding, the number 1, at mac.com. And I've got a website, Lizzie's Army, Lizzies, Lizzie's Army, ARMY.com. And you can go and you can see the videos there of the police kidnapping, of the false arrests. You can see them arresting me on January 4th for no mask. It's pretty
Mm.
horrific. It's pretty horrific, but
Mhm.
we've got to believe, we've got to get the word out, we've got to stay strong, we've got to be positive, and we've got to lead with our humanity. But
Mhm.
it's time to stand up and fight for it. We've been soft. We've been in a place for so long where we didn't have to fight for our freedoms.
Mhm.
And it's time that we engage in a different way.
Mhm. Because a lot of people this past year didn't know what a guardianship was
Right.
until, like, this past year.
Yep.
So it's really opened up a lot of eyes, you know, to what's going on. This is
Yep,
disgusting.
it's disgusting. Yep. And in New York, it's under New York State mental health and hygiene laws. It's an Article 81 is the probate court. And if you go through and you read it, you understand it's so thin. It's so thin what they allow to have happen in these courts, and they strip you of everything. And listen, if I was trying to show people evidence that my husband is a sadistic, controlling sociopath who is trying to manipulate you and do whatever he can to take control over you, well, there's no greater evidence than having him petition for a full guardianship over somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sick. It's absolutely sick. So I just want to wake people up to it. I want to wake people up to the dangers of it. I want people to establish living wills so that they don't get subjected to this in the same way. I want people to understand to never open your door to the police. Tell them that if they don't have a warrant, you're not going to speak to them. Ask them to come back. This kind of stuff, we have to start protecting yourself. We have to start recognizing who the real dangers are, and also understand that we're at a tipping point. So if we can get people to come to the good side, right? If we can unify with the police, with the judges, with the military, who are actually here to do us, to help us, who are trying, who don't want to be a part of this hostage takeover of humanity. If we can unify with people like that, find out who they are, get them to come forward, that's how we start building a coalition towards a better humanity, you know?
Well said. Well said. Well, I'd like to have you on as a return guest, as your case progresses.
I would love that.
Okay. Don't jump off, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Mary Ann Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Elizabeth and other guests in the future. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on and for being brave and telling these stories. It really needs to happen.
Well, thank you.